Oh, hey guys. Okay, so we're going to pick up and do a few more templates. First, before I dive into the templates, I want to change the layout because I know this isn't the most conducive layout for these tutorials, and I want to make sure that all the tutorials in the class are very clear and you can see exactly what's happening. So I'm going to tear out some windows. It sounds a lot more crazy than it really is. I'm going to grab this color up here and I'm going to dock it right here until it turns blue. And that's going to give some space for you to see me without me overlapping with these awesome settings down here in the layers panel. But I'm thinking I can go a little bit further with this. Now that I have this open area here, I can tear out the library and I'm going to dock that. See, I'm in the way. I'm going to dock it so it's down on the bottom like so. And there we go. So now we can nudge this up so that it bumps into the color, and then just the symbols here are going to be blocked a little bit and the rest should be great. So yeah, now you can see what's going on a lot more easily. You might also see me take the timeline and dock it up top here sometimes if I'm going to be doing a lot of work on the layers. I I guess I can work with it up top or whatever. We'll just leave it up there for now. So now it really opens that up. So if I'm leaning over and drawing, it doesn't cover that up too. Okay, so now that that's taken care of, one other thing that you'll notice is different here is I went ahead and added an animation layer. So I did this before. I'm just going to do it one more time to break this down for y'all. So, when I hide the animation layer, we see that the flipbook layer is held for all 19 frames. And what you want to do, I'll just go ahead and delete that. To create an animation preview, it's important that the flipbook is set to guide, right? When you right click on flipbook, you choose guide so that it does not export. If I hit Control Enter now, nothing exports, right? But then I come in and I create a new layer, and I'm going to select one of these. The top left is just as good as any. Copy that and then go ahead and paste that here. Okay. And now you'll see, now that my properties panel is bigger, oh, let me make that bigger up to here. So now that I have a bigger properties panel, I can see things more easily, which is another big advantage of putting the library over here. So I can come down here and instead of just the single frame, I can play it once. I don't want to loop it because I just want it to play once through. And there we go. And we can see that this is, how many frames is this again? You know what? It's actually 10 frames. Oops. It should only be 9. So that's fine. We'll just cut it off at 9. So on frame 10, right here, I'm going to hit F7. Clicking on there and then hit F7 so that after 9 frames, it's out of there. We're going to pretend that I kept to the rules and actually did a 9-frame animation. And then I just like to call this layer animation. So I have it animating here, and that is not a guide layer, so that when I hit Control Enter, it plays. And the reason why I created those blank frames is so that there's a nice gap after it's done playing. It holds. Okay, so now that that's done, I can save it. Now I want to create some other templates. Now you could go up to 4096. I think with Animate, the nice thing about Animate is like if you're exporting in here and I do like, file, export image, right? And that's with the animation layer hidden and the flipbook layer shown. I can export an image and I wait for it a little bit. Because I have a second monitor set up, it does this window really, really big. You just have to scale that down. And, oh, you know what? Fit on screen. Just, okay. My settings are such that it has to be not a guide layer. There we go. So now I'm exporting the flipbook layer. So I can come up here, export image. There we go. And then down here, oops, see, I'm in the way again. And this 100%, I can fit it to screen. And now you can see your flipbook there. Well, in Animate, you can just come in here and just say 200%, and that'll do a 4096 flipbook for you. So my feeling is work in a size that's good for you, whether that's 1024 or 2048, which is what I had before. And that way it's not so massive and unwieldy. But the nice thing about vector is that you can always just scale it up to 4096 and have a 4K texture if you so desire. And you can export that. So yeah, so we're going to just do all of our templates today in 2048. And you can always check your size by just clicking off on the stage so that nothing is selected. And that'll bring up document settings, right here. And it says 2048. So yeah, we're all set there. Let's create a new file. And we're just going to go through this a couple times, different types of templates that I like to use. And I'll talk a little bit about what I like to make them for. So we're going to do 2048, just great size, because it's nice and easy to remember that if we do a rectangle and we make that rectangle 512 by 512 right here, now this lock button here would have scaled them the same. So notice that I set it to 512 and now I have to do this other one to 512. But if I lock it here and say I do like 256, it'll change them both at the same time, which is kind of nice. All right, align that to the sides and hit F8 to convert it to a symbol. Now, I like to create each new Flipbook template from scratch because there's a lot of weirdness that can happen when you have it like one size and then you change it and all this other stuff. So we're going to go ahead and just do this real quick. Double click into here, double click on the outline, which selects all 4 edges. Hit Control X, create a new layer, hit Control Shift V. If you do Control V, it does that. It pastes it in the center, and that's not what you want. I'm going to do Control Shift V, which pastes it in the same place that you cut it from. Call this the border. Call this the solid. Really creative name here, guys. All right. We're going to select both of these frames on frame 16, hit F5 so that it extends out the animation to the end. Now for the solid, we want it to shift color and have some fun with the colors that you choose here. I don't know. Let's see. We'll shift it from yellow to cyan, I guess. And then right click here, create classic tween. No, shape tween. That's the one you want. There we go. Whoop. Okay, and we can always change these colors later. For now, let's right click on the border, convert that into a guide layer. So we double click out here, we get a nice clean borderless shape. And we're going to set this here to just one frame, right? And then copy paste. Make sure it snaps properly. Now, if it's just snapped on one axis but not both, you're going to have some weird gaps, so watch out for that. Snapping, remember, is turned on. Oh, if you deselect that but you have the select tool chosen, snapping is right here. It used to be over here. If you have an older version of Animate, it'll be somewhere over here. Okay, that's snapping on both right there. Now this will work great because we have a 4x4. Remember when we did a 3x3, we had to snap them all together and then scale them to fit the entire shape of the larger stage. Now I was just selecting multiples by click and drag and then Control C and Control V so I could get 4 at a time. All right, so this is already frame 1. We're set there. This is going to be frame 2. It's going to be frame 3. And you should be seeing the colors that you did show up. If not, go back inside and double check that you've got everything working from here to here and that you've got this set to a single frame. Okay, set that to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I love cyan. Cyan's my favorite. They don't really teach cyan in school for some reason. I always teach red, yellow, and blue in elementary through high school. At least that's here in the United States. That doesn't count. I should stop talking. Cyan and magenta. I don't really show you what they are, even though they're incredibly important colors. Okay. So here we have our gradient, our 4x4 layout. And what's fun about this is you can always just come in and say, I like the cyan, but maybe I want it to go to, well, maybe I want it to go to magenta, right? I guess that's more of a desaturated red. So yeah, you can have fun with these colors. It's kind of fun setting that up. All right, so let's see. We can come in here. 2D effects. There we go. Let's do a 4x4 2048. Alrighty. Now, sometimes you might want a flipbook that is a 1:2 ratio, aspect ratio. So let's create a new one and just say create. I could have set the height there, but I'm going to show you another way to do this. So let's say I want the width to be 1024, like so. This format will actually work just fine. From the research I've done, you're not going to run into too many troubles with this. The only thing is in the game engine, it might not be the most efficient, right? Because it's going to end up scaling it on this axis to make it wider. But the nice thing about that is you can always just go do that in Photoshop later. And that way you can check your frames more easily in here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the first step would be to create a rectangle. And for this rectangle, we want it to be 1024 wide, but then I want to unlock it here, and I only want it to be 256 tall. So now I'm going to align it up and down. Okay, and then for this, we're going to be able to get in 8 frames. Okay. Now I can select all of these and just make them hold a frame, right? And then I double click into here. I want to extend this out to 8. Now this template is especially useful. Looks like that, cut it out, paste in place. I want to have the box on the layer below, sorry, the solid on the layer below, and then the outline on the layer above. So, you know, I can click and drag these like so, right? To just change their sorting order. Turn the outline into a guide layer. Now you'll notice something here. You've got all these outlines here, and this is just a bug in Adobe Animate, unfortunately. So the outlines are turned off on the one I was inside of, and if I double click into another one, you know, and then double click out, those will turn off as well. And I could do that one at a time, or I can just come in here, hide and unhide, and for some reason that makes them all disappear. Okay, so let's see. I want this inside of, oh, this is already holding. I want this solid here to be, let's do 2 new colors. Let's see. You can set colors in a variety of ways. It's kind of fun to play around with all the different methods and techniques. Let's just do a very subtle color shift. That can be kind of fun. From more of a reddish magenta to a deeper violet over here. And then create classic, or shape tween. I keep saying classic tween. Yeah, that'll be fun. All right, so now we've got here, we'll just do frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, frame 5, frame 6, frame 7, and frame 8. Okay, now the uses for this template here, I'll go ahead and save this. We'll just do, call this 1x8, 1024 by 2048. Okay, so the use case here would be, I want to do a lightning zap, and I want that lightning zap to tile side to side. So I want this over here on the left side to match up with this over here on the right side. And I want it about this aspect ratio, that box is about the scale that I want it. Because if you go ahead and you set this to 2048 wide, right? And then you scale all of these over. I'm going to select them all, hit Q, and then scale them, hold Alt and Shift to get them all to scale uniformly. Like, that's a really long, skinny lightning bolt, and you might want that scale, in which case, you know, you've just created your other template here as well. But if you want it more compressed and you want to animate it to that ratio, my recommendation is do all of your work at that ratio scaled in, you're animating along, And then when you're done, then scale it up to this. And all these symbols will scale nicely, right? So like if I go back and I hit undo, so like if I'm in here, let's create a new layer just to show you real quick. So if I've got like a lightning bolt that zigs and zags like this, right? That's really terrible lightning bolt. And then I scale it, like it'll scale it here, and then when you get it into the game engine, you can just like compress it back down to what it needs to be, because most game engines will do this for you anyway behind the scenes. If you give it that odd shaped texture, then it's going to scale it out for you anyway and use up all that extra memory. So the other option would be to do 2 rows. So you could come in here and say copy and then paste, and you could do a second row, and you could use up all that space and do 16 frames, right? So if we wanted to set up 16 frames, just simply grab this and move it out to here, change the color to like a bluish, and then change this one to like a cyanish over here. Let's see. I'm going to select these 2 frames and hit F5 there as well. So now I've got a 16 frame flipbook. And then over here, I just say, okay, I want you to be now frame 9. Whoops. Nope, that's not going to work because it doesn't read top to bottom and then left to right. It reads left to right first. So I have to go and change all these. So frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, frame 5. Now the downside of this is that it's not going to tile side to side anymore. So because I've now put these, like I don't want to take the flipbook all the way to the edge. I don't want to take the artwork all the way to the edge of that box because it's going to start overlapping with that other one. So got to be careful about that. And once I get all this set up, this is going to be a really, really handy flipbook for me later. Oh shoot, I messed up. 12, 13, there we go. 14, 15, and 16. Okay, so now we've got this, and then we can get rid of this hoopla in here. We can just call this, I don't know, animation, because we'll use that layer later when we're actually animating in there, and we can just lock these other 2. So there we go. And now, if I want this to go, so this is now a 16 framer. So notice the one we did before was 16 frames. It was 4x4. This is 2x8. So I'll do Control Shift S. This is my 2x8, 2048. There we go. And now I've got a few templates. And from that, from all these different ones, you can kind of extrapolate, you know, what's what, and so on and so forth. Now, if I want to preview this, remember I take one, I copy it, paste it here. You can paste it anywhere you want. I like to center it in the middle of my stage and then hide that other one so I don't distract myself. Hit F7, extend that out to frame 30. All right, let's call this animation. Call this flipbook. Turn that into a guide layer. And now the animation is not playing because we need to come down here and set it to play once. There we go. Hit Control Enter. You can see your flipbook playing in place at the scale of resolution that you would expect it to be at, right? Because if this is the actual size of the texture, the maximum size of the texture, then one of these boxes at that scale is going to be what you would expect the resolution to be in game on your screen, right? At the most. And in a video game, you know, you might scale it down even further. It's being used on a smaller part of the screen. So, you know, that's kind of a good way to judge. Is it high enough resolution? By your export here, you can start to gauge that. Also, you'll be able to tell once you put it in the game engine if it's super blurry or pixely, then you probably didn't do a high enough resolution on that. All right, so there you go. That's how you create flipbook templates. It's pretty fun stuff. Also, hope you like the setup for the windows. It's what we're going to use inside the class. If you want to sign up for the class, there's a link in the description. and come and join us. We are going to have lots of fun using these aspect ratios and many others to make some really exciting 2D effects. All right, catch you later. Bye.